place. I know this sounds completely crazy and difficult to explain and understand, but it was really it was for real. I was standing on the ground on that earth, and 80 million years ago, and there was a spaceship. Actually, at the beginning of the experience, might be curious, but I heard like a kind of a heavenly voice. It could well come from my own mind, but it was like a powerful, all surrounding voice, not loud, but it was proclaiming something like, "This is the place." That's all what it said, nothing more. And then I thought I am looking at a temple, because I was in Bodh Gaya, there was a temple, and I saw a huge semi-globular structure in distance. And like first I thought, it's a temple. Then I looked properly, and I was coming closer to it. At some point I saw it's a technology, it's a spaceship, and it's out of this earth. So that moment was amazing. I knew, like any other moment would probably be if extraterrestrial spaceship lands on the earth and you suddenly see something you have never seen or imagined. So and I was thinking, wow, like, what's this? What's happening? I did not have a slightest idea before that. It was about connection, ETs and this and ufology and people contacting ETs. It's just I knew that such things, that some people have those interests. But it was not in my immediate area of interest that time. Well, anyway, so I saw this in my own eyes, and so there was no doubt about it being real, because I was not in a dream. In a dream, you have some kind of altered reality that comes and goes, and you make few steps. The whole thing changes. And you are not able to base your understanding on what's real or not. No, this was completely real. Actually, it was number times more real than the way you feel here. Why? Because it was expanded reality. It was much more intelligent in the course.
An expanded reality.
A more empowered reality. I will explain that a little bit later, if I may. So I was coming close to that object, and I saw it's a spaceship. Then first I would not know what.
What sort of size was this? What concept of? How big was it?
No, see, like you have the picture.
But to you, I mean.
So it was a semi-globe, and it had like in my just saying kind of esteem, you would walk an hour before you would complete the circumference. So it had to have at least like more than say maybe 2-3 miles or something.
Well, if I was to walk 5 miles, that would take me about 45 minutes.
Depends how fast you walk. They say like the average. When I was in kid,
are you saying if I was, is that faster or slower than you would expect?
Faster. I don't know. See, I apologize because I'm more used to the metric system where we use meters and kilometers. So when I was a kid, they used to say the average was 4 kilometers per hour, which is like about
okay, so
3 miles.
Roughly speaking, we're talking about the diameter
Yeah, I mean about the circumference.
The circum-
So let's say the diameter could be
Circumference.
circumference.
We won't go into the mathematics of it. So the circumference would be about 4,000 meters.
Maybe, yeah,
4 kilometers.
about that size. Yeah, it was really, really huge. I would say it would cover an area of a small city. And it was also, it was almost a semi-globe. I don't know, it was a perfect half of a globe, but it was really huge. So I came close, and then I saw, the surface, and that was another amazing experience, like seeing the way of the technology.
What was the surface like?
It was, you could imagine, like a hardened stone. It was a metal. I knew it's a metal, but it looked like a black stone. It was a metal, but you would say from a sight, it's mineral, it's stone. It was a metal, and it was not earth. It was not earthly one. I mean, you cannot find that kind on earth. It's just more different structure of the material. But at the place where it came from, it was a natural element.
What do you mean, where it came from?
Well, it was constructed from it is spaceship. It came from another place in the universe, another planet, and all that.
Were there artifacts or symbols on these?
It had a,
Were they tiles or?
there were panels like tiles covering the whole the ship. The cover was composed of tiles that was like you would say 1.5 meter to a meter, something like that. And even those tiles had facets, like if you have some kind of faceted objects, some insects, they have faceted eyes, like
Yes.
small tiles within the tiles that are plastic, like facets. So it had like a grid, like a structured plastic grid within each tile.
So each tile was comprised of smaller squares. Or were they square tiles or?
Not square tiles. They were more like how you call that? This hexagon, no. Different.
Diamond?
Maybe.
Do you want to draw these out?
Yeah, I think I could. It's going to be very rough and simple, but it's like, so this is one of the big tiles.
That's more like a rectangle.
Oh, sorry, it's like the rectangle, but it's supposed to be the big tile. Then it would have, like many, like I don't know, yeah. So I think the facets were of something of that shape, one close to each other, and then they still would have a structure, but like plastic, or it was like a 3D structure. So it's
So-
like an octagonal shape.
So you're looking basically at a rectangle with the corners cut off.
These are the facets within the
sub-
big rectangle.
The subtiles, like a bee, like a honeycomb and a bee.
Yeah,
beehive.
yeah, reminds you of that. So, but it was within the. We're just speaking about a little detail
Yes.
of these facets within the.
So you were right close to these.
These were up, and on the, on surrounding the ship on the eye level, there were even like more intricate reliefs imprinted to the surface. That were
What was printed on the surface?
I don't know. You say in English also reliefs, like a relief, like a you have in carved something in stone that is
Yes.
plastical shape.
Yes.
You can have a inverted relief or the
The
outverted.
carved grooves made up pictures or symbols?
Yeah, like that. I'm just explaining how to compare it to something. So this was like the inverted relief, yeah,
Yeah.
right? But it was not going to the deep to the tile. Anyway, so there were like this kind of plastic. Won't say carvings because the technology is not that someone was
It wasn't
carving.
carved.
It was not
printed.
carved.
Printed or molded.
Well, it was, I think, you would say they used laser technology, basically, something close to it, even though you could not.
Precision cut.
Oh, it was very, very precise compared to anything I really know about. Well, you could imagine that there's some kind of precision like this could be found in all we had. So so it was not just this is a drawing, but those were technologies that were really very sharp, very precise. No.
So let's describe this. You've drawn basically a door, or how many doors were there, or you do just see one?
No, I'm not enough to draw this.
We don't have to draw the whole craft.
Short time. I actually did one drawing a time ago, but it does not look good. I just tried to do that for someone, and it's a shame of a drawing.
Wow.
So
Well, let's have a look at that.
no.
No, it's... You're teasing us now. That was a magnificent drawing.
Don't laugh that. I'm simply explaining the concept because you have such an advanced computer graphics these days
Don't
that
worry.
actually if we wanted to reconstruct the model of the ship, we could. The only problem is having the person with the software who would work according to instructions, because I'm not familiar with computer graphics. It would take me time to learn.
Well, as we don't actually have those computer graphics, can you give us a glimpse of the diagrams that you've drawn so far? Can we call them working copies? Like,
As a basic childish sketch drawing of how a ship looks to 4 years old.
yeah, you want to hold that up? Yeah. So, this fundamentally is giving...
Yeah, I will explain it later, I think.
Yeah, I think if we can do this...
Yeah, we
now,
can, sure.
yeah.
That was what we were trying to describe. I mean, even this is like proportionally, it cannot be correct, like because we are facing the front and you see 3 doors. Then if there are 16 doors, it cannot be proportionally correct.
Yeah.
But I'm not a good sketcher at this point, probably. Anyway, at the eye level, around just next to around all the ship, at the eye level, you can see these sort of
Yes.
panels. Then there were those imprints of symbols and faces of space races of beings that were once, say, our friends or our ancestors. Don't know even all of them, but there were quite many. It was like a gallery of space beings that were they had nothing to do with Earth. They never been here. They were from our part of universe, and they were some were extinct. So the ship was kind of from the outside. You could see it would be also a kind of memorial. It simply had these drawings like of to memory of these beings.
It was a memorial ship. No,
No, it just
it showed the outs-
looked that way.
Can you describe or draw any of those faces?
I'm not good in drawing ETs. But actually, you know that different. If I can just describe it, you know, it's just like some had long faces, long figures, long faces. Some would look something like they had a round, almost round face, like a moon-like face, and different features, different forms, different symbols and scripts of the being. So it's like if you go to the museum around, it was very interesting, just amazing.
So, I mean, we've got 3 or 4 basic concepts of so-called ETs. We have the greys, which have got the big wide eyes, the almond eyes, different versions of those eyes. We've got mantid type, very tall beings. And we've got reptilians and so forth. I mean, do any of those faces that you saw, was it just the faces or was it the entire being? Is that what
Sometimes there was a face and sometimes there would be the being, but it was like it always contained, you would say, like the basic description of the race of beings. These
what do you mean by description? Does that mean you could read the writing?
Basically, as an ET, probably a human being would have a difficulty. As an ET, you would be able to understand at least like a basics of it. Like nowadays, if you come to a foreign script, maybe you are not able to read Japanese. At least you realize it's Japanese, right?
Yeah.
Or you realize it's I don't know what, Cherokee or what, Chinese or Cyrillic. You know the script and the being had an identity. And what is important maybe to say, these were like the old races from our part of universe who were created really long time ago, who lived long time ago and had a distinguished history and culture, and were simply all of them, no matter, they were like the progenitors of the younger races in a relative sense of.
And how would you know the different ages of the races? You know, how do you know an older race rather than a younger race?
Well, because we are coming to the gist of the story. We were one of the old races, like a firstborn races in the universe. Now the word races does not sound too good. Anyway, you know, the whole story goes back to space, to that part, to our home, to that part of space where we came from, and where we lived maybe for millions of years, our years. You know, like our awareness of biology and what we believed or knew, say, to be true about life in the universe, it all came from one source. Now, it's a super intelligent source, like something like cradle of life, you know, somewhere deep in the universe, the source of life. That source of life it's a super intelligence that no incarnated being, no kind of race, nothing individual being it emanated has, because it's just like a source of creation. Now it keeps emanating life both in simple forms and in advanced forms, in various stages. It's like a living zone. You know, it starts all the life in the universe starts from that zone, from that
Like a
source.
like a nursery.
Like a nursery of life.
More than that, yeah, like a cradle of life.
Great.
It's like a cosmic intelligence, physically super intelligent zone, and then it keeps it keeps emanating sort of patterns, like you would say, different genetic codes. Yeah, but this is very simple. But it just keeps emanating a kind of living patterns of intelligence. Now that living information, when it reaches a planet, it adapts, it adjusts according to physical system of that planet, so it grows to one or another form. Now, what we knew, what we were aware of, that it was so-called, like in the first phase of creation, this cosmic intelligence emanated advanced beings, like humanoids, advanced humanoid beings. I know it's kind of difficult to imagine but from the point of that creative intelligence, that's probably the difference between manifesting a very complicated pattern, which is actually a spark of its complexity.
Now,
It's not a difficult.
How was this information conveyed to you? How did you find this out?
And that was our knowing, that was our knowledge of these ancient beings. When I found myself, explain that a little bit, but when I found myself at the ship at that time, I realized the ship just landed here. It was at that time. Now, like they say, the Australian time, the dream time. Now, there was a time before time. It was a time before human race even existed. So that's when they came, when we came. So in that time, that
Was
the
this
spaceship.
was this when humanity was being seeded here?
Yes, it caused. I'm sorry. It caused the origin of humanity, but it was not that they were seeded here. That's the point. We will come to it, how human beings came to existence, but it was not intentional. It's the point.
Are you saying that humanity is a mistake?
Not a mistake, but it's
A special.
result of an accident of sorts. It's a result of adaptation. That's more correct. Right? Adaptation to foreign physical environment, conditions of this particular planet and solar system. Because our home and our former environment was very advanced, was different. That's why it was able to host more advanced intelligence and life form as we were biologically. We were complete, and we consisted of something like plasmatic biological light. The beings we were originally, or say their biological structure, had nothing. It did not look like humans, terrestrial life forms do today. It was like a homogeneous light, biological light, that fulfilled all the functions of the organism. When these beings arrived here, and some of them, when they came out of the ship and stepped on Earth, they were affected by earthly gravity and simply had to give up to the structure of this planet. So what has happened is that if you simply imagine this form that was formerly, like I say, homogeneous light, I'm not sure this is easy to imagine. You know, they were almost, they were not transparent, but you could almost see inside the beings. They were very, very light. They were taller than humans. They look differently, had different features, etc.
Were they humanoid?
Of course, yeah.
What do you mean, of course? Does that suggest that the
They
more
look
natural
similar.
the more natural state of a lot of beings is humanoid?
Yeah, advanced in space. Advanced beings tend to be humanoid for some reason, and then animals, like in space, you have also lots of animals, and animals also have different shapes. Actually, the earthly animals, as we know them, have some the space predecessors that also look different on their planets than those animals look here. In either case, so yeah, these beings simply they looked very similar in a way. You could feel they are very humane and very close. They had very close appearance to what you understand as a human being, more from inside. Like when I look at people sometimes on some days, I go out. I see people. Look to not to their eyes, but I simply look at them, and I see the same people. I see the root is there, the line is there. They come directly from these beings. But so many things happened from that time. What would we?
What do you mean by so many things?
In evolution, adaptations, mutations, so many things. But what is important to explain, so for like for the biologists, for the scientists, is what has happened to the original biological form, and this is like a physical process that happened on a, say, molecular level, or level of energies and particles. Because this biological intelligence of these beings, it did not have an elemental structure like it has on Earth, like life forms do have on Earth. They did not have a separated liquids and solids and gases. It was like a homogeneous light. But when it was simply, subjected to the pressure of earthly atmosphere, so you can imagine that the atmosphere was trying to drag down the biological form, and it collapsed. It was not a mistake on our part. It was the ship that had some, it had some accident, it had some navigation problem. It needed to land somewhere. It picked up Earth as a habitable planet, the planet where we can stay, rest, repair the ship, go back home. It proved otherwise. It proved that the Earth, or this region, has a anomaly, like a magnetic anomaly that has to do with its with naturally, maybe the quality of the metal, the iron core of the Earth that came a long time ago from the star, from sun. Now maybe it gives different impression from outside of the solar system. It just looks weak and faint. But in its immediate vicinity, it produces a loop, like a loop,
A Mobius loop, an infinity symbol, like a figure of eight. No.
No, what I mean is that if you come that from outside of the solar system, maybe you cannot detect how strong the gravity pull actually is when you come near to the Earth. So this is what the ship somehow miscounted, whatever the reason was, because it was a planet where it was simple life, plant life. There was no advanced life here, absolutely no advanced life before us. And so from that point it was safe. We were completely safe because we were completely alone here in a sense of intelligence. So and other visitors or whatever came after, but these beings were, for that time, they were alone here. But as I'm saying, the gravity loop that damaged the navigation systems of the ship, it's simply also due to that the biological entities collapsed in the molecular structure of the light they were composed of.
Did it kill them?
Some of them, but not all. Like most were not did not die, but they were like seriously damaged. Because imagine that the light has disintegrated under the pressure to particles, like thousands and millions particles. So I could actually see that in the event. I could see something with my physical eyes, but I could also observe what is directly what was happening. It was very difficult. It was very painful also for those who suffered this, because by that way the biological structure changed. So from like if you change the spin, it particularized.
The actual atomic structure of the elements they were made from changed or created.
Created, I think, because before the biological light, it was more on the of course it had a form, it had also an energy, but under that pressure, just like imagine you have something that is really like homogeneous, and suddenly it breaks to thousands and millions of pieces inside, and each particle starts to it throws the system to chaos, and each particle starts to rotate differently, and then they have to obey the physical laws of the earth.
In other words, they became transmuted.
Yeah, they became terraformed. They just transmuted quickly in that process. It was very painful to say earthly creatures. So from that, they also, I think the systems, they had to follow the local rules, the highest possible evolution grade. They were able to fit in on how they was, because this planet is not evolved enough to host really like a more advanced intelligence, because of its physical structure is being hard.
Sounds like a bad case of the bends. When a diver comes out of the water, out of the heavy pressure of the sea, except the other way round. Do you understand? When a diver
Yeah, right.
is in very deep water,
Right.
and he comes out of the sea too quickly,
Uh-huh.
all the gas in his blood
Shoot. Oh,
it starts to boil.
really?
So it's called the bends, and it will kill a diver because what happens is that all the
The
oxygen,
pressure changes.
if the pressure, because of the pressure
Right.
change,
Mm.
all the oxygen and all the nitrogen starts boiling literally inside his blood, and then he cannot survive because he has no oxygen.
Suffocates, yeah.
It's destroyed. So this is called the bends. You bend.
I understand. Yes, the principle is kind of similar.
Except they came from a higher density and went down to a lower density.
Right.
And how did they survive that? How long did this take?
Well, actually, it happened out of sudden, and it was, I must say, it was horrendous. It was like if you see something, if you are witness like these people who had been through kind of a nuclear disaster or holocaust of that sort, like you see these people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki accidentally. Then later in the Bodh Gaya, I was about 3 months that year, I visited almost all of the temples that are there. There's Thai temple, a Chinese temple, and Japanese temple. And the Japanese temple, which belongs to the Nichiren sort, like the Lotus Buddhism of Lotus Sutra. They had an exhibition of photos from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Still a big event we all remember. And it almost struck me. It reminded me of that, because this is a little bit similar.
So what else
what
then?
I saw.
Continuing on with this particular event, what else then happened with your experience?
Well, what do you mean? I mean, I was there. I was at the ship. Then I went inside the ship, and then.
Was the door open, or how did that work?
I would open it. We would have several devices with us, several gadgets. Then we.
But how did you get that? Who gave that to you? Did you encounter these beings?
At that time, at that time, in the past, I was one of them, and I had this with me. So.
So you had gone from your earthly body in the current time frame, and you became one of those beings.
Not became. It was moved. Say my explanation could be different. Is that the time-space field in the area was altered at the event. How? Because the event that happened there, the landing, or say crash, the landing that happened there all those millions years ago, possibly the spaceship is still underground, maybe. And if the ship is activated, now you need a space technologies to do that. You cannot do that with human technology, science, no chance. But from what I have understood when being back to the human side, this was organized, from the space. There was intelligent interaction from another space entities. Possibly they activated the ship mechanism that produced a time-space zone, because one of the things the spaceship, the mothership, we would call it, would have was its own alternative time-space field. That's how it moved in the space. So it actually it had a closed time-space field.
Essentially, somebody switched it back on.
Like for that time, for
and
that moment.
allowed you to be there to experience this.
And because I was there, I was in there, and I was there that time in
So
the
you were
past.
so in essence you were one of the elders.
Yeah, yeah, that time, and so I re-experienced those events, and
You re-experienced what? Sorry.
those events like the landing.
Yes.
Mm, so where did we end with the So what has happened? So I went back to the ship, and you asked how we opened the doors and this and that. So we all had some kind of like
How many
devices.
of you were there?
So the ship, it carried about 10,000 beings.
And how many had survived, or is it 10,000 beings after you'd become humanoid?
No, 10,000 beings were on the ship. And how many people survived? It's difficult to say, because part of them, exactly, they were so badly damaged, hurt, so virtually humanized. And maybe some died. So I think most thousands of them were damaged. That's the point. And I saw it. I saw this personally, how it happened to someone, like we were in the original state. We were all the same. We all looked about the same. We were completely equal. We did not have anyone who was the chief, beggar, or president,
Yeah.
whatever, council. We did not have even councils or governments, nothing of that sort. It was completely equal society of equal beings who were same intelligent, same beautiful, same smart, and of course they had individualities, but that had nothing to do with how or who we were from inside. Very highly evolved spiritual beings, ethical beings, had technologies, but very ethical beings. They would never do something like experimenting with other beings or life forms or something like that, or cause them pain or something. What did I say? I'm sorry.
You were taken back to this prime event,
Right.
where these highly evolved, well, these beings weren't evolved; they were just there. They were.
They were created that way.
They were created that way. That's all right.
They existed that way, lived that way, or still do. In our home somewhere, they still are and exist. And because time spins very quickly on the earth, so we think how much time has passed, but actually this time is very short time in our home. So it's maybe one of the reasons why they did not find us yet, why we are still here. Because we had a very, the time as we experienced time on our planet was like I was trying to do the math about it, and it from what I remember from the ship is like 4 hours of our time was something like 80 earthly years originally. So 1 hour would be like 20 years. So that's quite a difference, right?
Is that what that mandala is explaining?
The mandala is explaining the concept of time, like an alternative time-space field, and the relation between outer time. Outer time means like the astronomical time, planetary time. They have inner time, biological time. It's your like biological clock. Then you have alternative time. The mandala does not say, or the teaching does not say, where does it come from. It does not say that.
What then happened?
So okay, what I wanted to say is that the moment that we were I remember the time when we were nearing the planet, when we were still in space, and the ship announced it had it has to land somewhere. That was an accident. Or it was not like a big statement, or not a big deal even.
That's because he didn't realize that they were going to be in such trouble.
Yeah, this is just nobody expected this. We were always safe. The technologies were always, completely safe. We were never put to any danger, or we did not have to face such challenges. It was just constructed forwards, very precise and everything.
So everything always worked, and there were no problems until this time.
And so it was a catastrophe, like it was really big catastrophe, like a exodus of a race, really. So then the ship, how it came down, it was resting quite a long time on grounds, and it would not open the doors. So it was suspicious. Because like I remember like being awake and waiting in the cabin until the door would open.
Now, were you still? You weren't physical then.
Of course, we were physical. We were different biologically, but we were physical. Yeah. So you mean in the event? Yes, I was physical. Just the previous form was different. I know it's humanly. This is difficult to present, understand that would change a time, space, field, everything.
Were you a being of light,
change.
humanoid, but being of light, or just? I mean, I don't understand the concept of having a cabin to sleep in or whatever when you're a being of light. Or were you a being of light in your higher physical form?
Right. You have a human concept of that as like a spiritual beings are disembodied. That's not true. This is a human concept of duality, that you think that everything that is physical has to decay. Why? Because the human consciousness and religion and philosophy has to base itself on the experience of humans, that everything that is embodied is transient, is born and die.
Yeah.
So this is the human expectation of duality and understanding about life in universe, that everything goes about that way. It's not true. These beings were physical, 3D beings. Yet they were. If I say light is for the lack of better term, you would say it's like a condensed light.
You're right.
The biological light, it performed biological functions in that sense that it would transform energy from the surrounding environment. They could basically feed on light. They did not need nutrition in the sense like
so they fed
humans do.
From the energy that's around us in space.
Almost from any environment. Suppose it was clean, they could transform, say, photons, the light energy to themselves. Of course, you can imagine, compared to the human body, their form was much more flexible, more open. The system was more open. So it the human thing, the human body is kind of shrunk in its form to this earthly density. So it's they were like saying they were spiritual beings. It's speaking of their quality, of their ethical quality. Or when we say a biological light, we are trying to describe a state of matter, right?
Yeah.
In fact, everything is light on the level of energy.
Well, in the closing 10 minutes, what happened and what's the basic meaning of this event? What does it mean? What's the whole point of it?
Well, the meaning, as I have understood, is that the memory of that time was revoked. Is that correct?
Was this as a result of your experiences in the monastery?
No, not at all. Cannot be. As Maximalist says, this is a result of my past karma. But I don't mean this completely. Just don't take my don't pick up on word, because there was a physical event that came from space.
Right.
So they activated the memory. They activated the ship.
So you're saying that another craft activated
I'm
this?
sure, yeah, another cosmic intelligence, because the ship itself is very, the technology is very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And also...
So you're saying the ship is still there?
Probably, yes. It would be very deep underground. And so I could experience the events. What am I saying is that the memory was activated at mankind, because somehow, they knew. I was completely aware in those 4 hours when this happened. Like it was in the human time frame was about 4 hours. But I have experienced lots of events from the beginning, like a kind of dilated time span. I experienced those events from the beginning and absorbed to myself a lot of the memories I recalled from that time, naturally, because in that state you just remember yourself. It's like when you come to familiar place from your childhood, so everything is known to you. You say, I see. You suddenly, you know. It's not that you sit there and listen to someone. No, you simply in that state of being that you remember your origin, and you remember your people and where everything came from. And then, so I think it was revealed in this time of human history. Mankind needs the reminder of their origin, and they need to. I'm not sure that it will be easy or immediately possible to prove, but at least the information, it should get out to people. Possibly also at least I can speak for myself till I'm here. Some of this extraterrestrial data, actually our heritage, could be extracted and could be passed over to mankind, because people, they forgot, this one part of the events. Maybe we don't have enough time to finish that idea, but actually because of the trauma they suffered at the beginning, they lost their identity. They suffered.
So do you believe maybe this is some kind of a race? It built into our fundamental structure of remembering a catastrophic event.
Yeah. And also,
which is why we keep on thinking we're going to have a catastrophic event.
Yeah, but also because there had been many catastrophic events throughout the human history, like natural disasters and everything, wars.
Okay.
But this was the big event, and unfortunately, what has happened is that they lost their profoundly. It's difficult to imagine, but it's maybe you can imagine that on example of people who had an accident or became very ill throughout their life, like disabled. Their sense of identity and sense of your experience changes. You are no longer the walking, talking, thinking creature. At the end.